welcome back to the vlog. I am Julie, if you don't know, and I am a mom of 4 little people. I have a 6-year-old William, a 4-year-old Nora, a 2-year-old Lincoln, and a 1-year-old Matthew. And I wanted to do a sit-down video to kind of update you guys on Matthew, because last y'all heard he has cerebral palsy, and I didn't really do an update after that. And I was going to update like how it affects him and what we're doing and how we found out and all of those things, and I never did. And hold on, let me put my watch on Do Not Disturb. My friends are very chatty. And I never did, which is actually a good thing because we got news. And also I had grand plans to like do this video with makeup and like real clothes on and like my house clean, but life. I worked out this morning and then we went on a walk and then ate lunch, and I threw the kids in bed because they were all really tired. So I haven't even showered for my workout. So at least you can't smell me. But I wanted to update you guys because we found out like a month ago. I don't remember exactly when. I'd have to go look. Like a month ago, that Matthew does not have cerebral palsy. Matthew has a very rare genetic disorder, I guess you would call it, called ADCY5 dyskinesia. It affects like 400 or 500 people have ever been reported having it, and he is definitely on the younger end of that, of those people. So the ADCY5 gene mutation affects the chromosome that converts ATP, which is energy created by the body, into CAMP, which is signals from the brain into cells. So a mutation in this gene causes those signals to either under or overfire, which can cause a whole host of issues. Not everybody experiences the exact same symptoms, but there's a good bit of overlap. For Matthew and for most people, it's dyskinesia, which is a lot of jerky, extra movement, for lack of a better term. So you'll see him crawling around and then he'll just suddenly start jerking around and kind of flopping around like a fish. But you'll also see it like he'll be sitting in his high chair and he just suddenly starts moving, and he's not doing that intentionally. Because of how rare it is, there's not a lot of studies that have gone into it. There's not a lot of treatment options. Especially because he's so young, he's even more limited because there's not really any testing that has been done for the medications that they would use in older people. So just in my own research, 2 of the main things that they use is caffeine and a asthma medication, which I think is steroid based. Obviously caffeine would be the less scary option, but as we coffee lovers know, typically the longer you drink coffee, the more coffee you drink, the more you need for it to be effective. Like I can drink coffee at 8 o'clock at night and it doesn't affect me anymore. I drink it for the taste now. And the same thing happens for if you're on caffeine pills for medical reasons. So if you start an 18-month-old 19-month-old now on caffeine pills, how long will it be before those aren't effective anymore? So, and then obviously there's a good bit of concern of using an asthma medication and the side effects and all of the things. So we'll see. We see a specialist the middle of November. Today is October 10th. So we see a specialist in the middle of November and we'll get a little more information on our options and such, or if we even want to do any treatment at this point. At this moment, Matthew is in physical therapy once a week and occupational twice a week. So, and his occupational therapy is focusing on eating. He also has a G-tube because he doesn't eat enough orally to be able to gain weight. that's pretty much what we're doing. He does have a speech delay. He doesn't have any words. He doesn't really babble. He goes a lot. But he can definitely communicate. If you hold up two things, he'll pick the one that he wants. If you ask him if he wants water, and if he does, he'll smile really big. He pretty much always wants water. He loves water. So he can communicate, just not verbally. So that will be interesting to navigate. Most likely he will walk, because according to his physical therapist, he's got grit and he's very determined to do it. So he will likely need a walker to walk around the house, is kind of what we see will happen. And then when he's out and about, just because of the dyskinesia, he's at a much higher risk for falling. If he glitches while he's walking, obviously he would fall. So most likely he would need a wheelchair when we're out and about, like out of the house. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. All of this could change. He may not need anything. He may need more. We have no idea. But that's where we're at right now with that. So I guess I'll take y'all back to the process of getting this diagnosis. You know where we end so far. You know where we're at now. But it was quite the process to get there. When he was about 6 months old, I was starting to notice that he had a tremor in his legs. It was mostly in his legs, and it actually took a friend watching the video, and she's like, no, I actually see it in his hands too, it's just not as much. I'm like, oh, you're right. So I sent that to his pediatrician. His pediatrician was like, should probably see a neurologist. So we did. He had an EEG. It is not seizure related. She did a physical exam at 6 months old. So, sorry, let me back up. At 6 months old, he also was not even attempting to sit up. Like most babies, even if they're not sitting independently, they will try. He wouldn't. He immediately fold in half. So he wasn't even attempting to sit up, which is odd. And I mentioned that along with the tremors to our neurologist, or to our pediatrician, and again, we were referred to a neurologist. We got into the neurologist he was around 9 months. He was around 9 months when we saw the neurologist. We did an EEG, and then we went in and had a physical examination done with the neurologist, and she almost immediately diagnosed him with cerebral palsy. So I had already suspected that. I had actually brought it up to a nurse practitioner, a friend that goes to our church. I'm like, could this be? And she's like, I don't know. It wouldn't be a very typical presentation of it, which is true, because he was rolling both ways. He was trying to crawl. He was doing a lot of things except for sitting. And then the tremors, I think, were also throwing her off a bit. Anywho, we decided that we would need to get an MRI, and I honestly was not super impressed with this neurologist. She kind of rushed through the diagnosis and telling us. I had already suspected it and had already done my own research, so I didn't have a ton of questions, but she didn't seem to take a whole lot of time. And she did order an MRI, but she didn't do any other testing or anything like that. So I started poking around and trying to figure out how I could get into Scottish Rite here in Dallas. And our pediatrician at the time, we are no longer with her. That's a whole video of itself. But she referred us to the orthopedic department for Scottish Rite to just make sure that his hips and everything were fine, and that his legs were not. A lot of times with CP, their legs can grow, the muscles get tight, and so their legs don't grow straight, or at the same length, I should say. So we went to ortho and they did an x-ray and said that he was growing fine and that wasn't a concern, and asked if we wanted to be referred to neuro, and I said yes, that would be wonderful. So we went and got into Scottish Rite neurologist, and we saw her, let's see. So we got our original CP diagnosis from the first neurologist actually on William's 5th birthday, November 16th of last year. So almost a year now. So yeah, and then I think he had his G-tube at that point. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, so it was after March of this year that we saw the new neurologist, and she also suggested that we got an MRI. We hadn't done it yet because he ended up getting a G-tube, and I didn't want him sedated back to back to back. So we got another referral for an MRI, and we also did genetic testing. So she ordered the genetic testing with the understanding we were still going to get the MRI just to see if he had had a stroke in utero or something like that. And we did actually go in and try to do the MRI, but he had been sick with a cold, and when they put him under, his stats kept dropping. So they had to abort that. So he never actually got an MRI. And then like a week later, I got a phone call from the neurologist's office saying, his genetic testing is back. Would you guys be able to come in 2 days? I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. I'm like, yes, we will be there. And a lot of very kind people tried to reassure me that it didn't necessarily mean anything bad. And I was like, Scottish Rite wants to see you in 2 days. It's probably not good. So lots of... Go to your room. So lots of thoughts, because how bad is not bad? How bad is not good? You know, this could just be like, we did find something and it's not that big of a deal. We can treat this, or we can work with this, or this could be progressive. This could be something that is terminal. And like, just the possibilities and the unknown was not a fun place to be. So 2 days of just having to constantly remind myself that the Lord is sovereign and he has planned all of this long before the foundations of the earth, and that he knew what the news would be, and that he has always known what the news would be. So having to rest in that was difficult. So we got through that, and then we went to the appointment. Driving to the appointment was also not fun. Also was in the middle of Dallas rush hour traffic, which did not help with my anxiety. But we made it there, and then had to wait for like 45 minutes for the neurologist to actually see us, because she kind of just worked us in between patients. So we got there and waited for forever. And she came in and sat down, and just told us, you know, we did find something, and it is this very rare genetic mutation called ADCY5 dyskinesia. And she's like, it's so rare that I've never treated anybody with it. I've never heard of it. And she, I of course asked her, like, do you have a prognosis? And she's like, well, because it's so rare, we don't know if they don't even know if it's progressive or not. Research seems to lean towards it is to a certain point, that it can be progressive up until, I think they said adolescence or youth or something, I don't remember. At a certain age, they believe that it stops progressing. But some of the research says that it's not progressive, so we don't really know. That's basically what I've gathered. We'll see. Hello, can I help you? Thank you, friend. Go lay down. Lay down. So, that's what we know. Mostly what we don't know. I think the most important thing that I am learning through this, and that I'm sure I will continue to learn through this, is being comfortable with the unknown, which I am not comfortable with the unknown. I like to know all the things. So that's been interesting. It was actually rather ironic and like, haha, God's funny. Because literally the day before we went to see the neurologist, Ryan and I were talking about how he's more spontaneous and he is more comfortable with unknowns, and I am not at all. I need to know all the things. And then we got a diagnosis that's basically one big bundle of unknowns. We talked about that during the appointment. We're like, yep. So, God is teaching me lots of things. It will be very sanctifying for me, for my kids, hopefully for my husband as well, and those around us. If we can help other people learn about disabilities, we are learning about disabilities right alongside you, because this is my first real exposure to this is my first real in-depth exposure to disability. I mean, I have seen people here and there and interacted with people here and there, but I've not had the opportunity to have deep relationships with people that are disabled. So I'm learning lots of things. I'm learning the language and just the different things that you have to consider. Like, I can no longer walk in public without being like, well, that's not wheelchair accessible. My kid can't do that. That is now part of me. So, it's a whole new world. Cue Aladdin. But we shall navigate it, and you guys can come on the ride with us and navigate too. Alright, that is it for this update. I hope you guys liked it. I hope it was helpful to you to learn more about Matthew and what we have learned about him. And I hope you follow along on this journey as we navigate life with 4 kiddos and do homeschooling and learn about disability while we're at it, because why not? I'll put my Instagram handle up here too, so if you want to see daily life, you can check that out. And then don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'm gonna log off because my kids come out of quiet time in 3 minutes.